The boy who never gave up James was a quiet boy from a small town, known for his big dreams and even bigger heart. He believed one day he would achieve something extraordinary, something the world would remember. But life is never that easy. One by one, people around him began to change. His best friend Daniel stopped talking to him. Even his teacher once told him, "James, not everyone is born to shine. Accept your limits." Those words broke him from the inside. But the biggest pain came from the one person he trusted the most, his childhood friend, Emily. When James tried to share his dream with her, she laughed and said, "James, wake up. You'll never reach anywhere with this fantasy." That night, James sat alone on the rooftop, staring at the sky. Tears rolled down his cheeks as he whispered, "Why does everyone leave when you need them the most?" But deep inside, a tiny spark refused to die. The next morning, James made a promise to himself. "I won't prove them wrong. I'll prove myself right." He started waking up early, spending late nights studying, practicing, learning. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. No one knew how much pain he was carrying inside, yet he kept going. Slowly, his work started showing results. He won a small competition, then another one. People who once ignored him began noticing him again. But James didn't say a word. He remembered the night he cried alone. So he kept working in silence, letting his progress speak for him. One day, Daniel saw James's name in the local newspaper. "Young Innovator wins National Award." Emily read the headline, too. Her hands trembled as she whispered, "I should have believed in him." But James, he smiled quietly and said, "This is only the beginning." The world tries to pull him down again. James's success was growing fast, faster than anyone expected. But with success, new problems always arrive. People who once ignored him now wanted to guide him. Some pretended to be friends. Some tried to copy his ideas, and some wanted to destroy him. At school, a group of senior boys became jealous of his achievements. One day, they cornered him in the hallway. "James, you think you're a star now? National Award winner, huh? You're nothing without luck." They pushed his books on the floor. Students around watched silently. Nobody helped him. James bent down, picked up his books, and quietly walked away. He had learned long ago that silence is stronger than anger. That night, James felt the old pain again, the same loneliness, the same fear, the same voice inside him whispering, "Maybe they are right. Maybe I'm not enough." But then he remembered his promise to himself. He stood in front of the mirror and said, "Great people are tested again and again. If I fall now, everything I worked for will break. He wiped his tears, opened his laptop, and continued working on his new invention. A project that he believed could change thousands of lives. And this time, he wasn't doing it to prove anyone wrong. He was doing it because he believed in his purpose. The real rise had just begun. Months passed. James didn't party. He didn't waste time. Every day, every night, he worked completely focused. Finally, one winter morning, his invention was ready. A small device, simple but powerful, designed to help children with learning difficulties absorb information faster. James sent his project to a national technology competition. Weeks went by, no response. He thought maybe he failed. Maybe he wasn't good enough. Then one afternoon, he received an email. "Congratulations, James Carter. You are invited to the National Innovation Finals." His hands shook. His eyes filled with tears. On the day of the finals, hundreds of people were there. Scientists, judges, media, principals, and top inventors. James stood on the stage, nervous but determined. When he explained his invention, the whole hall fell silent. Judges looked at each other, surprised. By the end of his presentation, the entire audience stood up and clapped for him. The judges announced, "Winner of the National Innovation Award, James Carter." The crowd cheered. Cameras flashed. People who once laughed at him were now trying to shake his hand. Even Emily and Daniel were in the audience. Emily wiped her tears and whispered, "James, you became everything I once said you couldn't." Daniel walked to him and said softly, "I'm proud of you. I'm sorry for leaving you." But James only smiled. He wasn't angry. He wasn't proud. He was simply grateful. Because everything he suffered, every tear, every insult, every lonely night, had shaped him into the person he was now. And as he held the trophy, he said in his heart, "This is just the start. The world hasn't seen my full story yet." When the world finally spoke his name after winning the National Innovation Award, James's life changed. But not in the way people think. Yes, he was invited to events. Yes, newscasters spoke about him. Yes, teachers praised him everywhere. But James stayed the same, silent, focused, humble. One evening, he was invited as a guest speaker at a major technology expo. The hall was huge, bigger than anything he had ever seen. Hundreds of students sat in front of him. When he stepped on stage, the crowd became silent. James began, "I wasn't born talented. I wasn't the smartest in my class. But I was the one who didn't stop. Even when life pushed me to the ground." Students listened like he was telling their own story. After the speech, dozens of kids gathered around him. A little boy asked, "James, how did you stay strong when everybody hurt you?" James knelt down, looked at him gently, and said, "Because pain is not your enemy. It is your teacher." That line spread everywhere. Clips of his speech went viral. People called him the boy who turned pain into power. But behind the fame, James still walked home alone, still studied alone, still worked late at night, designing something new, something bigger, because he knew greatness isn't a destination. It's a lifelong journey, and his journey was just entering the next chapter. The day James changed the world, months later, James developed a new, advanced version of his learning device. This time, it wasn't just for children. It could help adults with memory problems, stroke recovery, and learning disabilities. He presented it to an international organization. The panel was filled with scientists from the US, UK, Germany, Japan, top experts of the world. James stood in front of them, nervous but confident. He explained every detail. He showed real results. He shared stories of children whose lives changed because of his invention. By the time he finished, many judges were emotional. One elderly doctor said, "James, you didn't just make a device. You've given hope to millions." The panel voted. James won International Young Innovator of the Year. His invention was approved for global use. Schools and hospitals around the world began requesting it. Media from everywhere wanted interviews. But James wasn't thinking about fame. He was thinking about those nights he cried alone. Those moments he almost gave up. Those words people told him, "You can't do it. You're nothing. You'll fail." He smiled softly and whispered to himself, "And yet, here I am, standing on the world's biggest stage, changing lives." Becoming the person he wished he had when he was young. The morning James changed everything. The morning after the long night of repairs, James woke up before the sun. The sky was still dark blue, the kind of blue that promises a new beginning. A cold breeze touched his face as he stepped outside, and for the first time in weeks, he felt light. Not because life suddenly became easy, not because problems disappeared, but because he finally understood his purpose. He walked toward the hill where the broken lamp had once stood. Birds were waking, one soft chirp at a time. Dew shined like tiny stars on the grass. It stood tall, strong, bright, alive. James exhaled, almost laughing. It felt unreal. A day before, he had been just a tired boy with heavy worries. But now, he felt like someone who had carried hope on his shoulders and succeeded. Henry walked up the hill behind him. "You're up early," Henry said. James smiled quietly. "I wanted to see it turn on for the first sunrise." They both looked at the lamp, glowing warmly, as if greeting the morning. Henry placed a hand on his shoulder. "James, you didn't just fix a lamp. You fixed the spirit of this town." James felt his throat tighten. He swallowed the emotion gently. "I didn't do it alone. Everyone helped." Henry nodded. "Exactly. Because you sparked them to try." The valley below slowly filled with light. Roofs glimmered, windows shined, trees stretched their shadows. Children ran outside, pointing at the lamp. Women prayed with thankful hearts. Old men nodded proudly. The town had its light back, but more importantly, they had hope back. James took a step forward and looked at the rising sun. He whispered to himself, "If one light can change a whole town, maybe one person can change the world." The thought made him smile, not a proud smile, a peaceful one, soft, humble, pure. The wind lifted, gently, brushing through his hair. He closed his eyes, letting it carry every worry away. From that day on, whenever someone in the valley felt hopeless, they would look up at the hill and see the lamp glowing, and they would remember James, the boy who refused to give up, the boy who turned darkness into dawn. And James, he simply walked down the hill with quiet confidence, ready for whatever life placed before him next, because he now knew a truth he would carry for the rest of his life. Light isn't something you wait for. Light is something you build. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more bedtime inspiration. See you in the next story.